Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Faisal Karmali. I have Shane Wenzel, president of Shane Home Group of Companies. I'm excited to have him here. You business owners have to adjust with the times. He's going to tell you why. He's going to tell you his story and how he became one of the best in his industry. Stay to the end of this video. Shane's got his top 3 business tips just for you. I'm really excited. Shane Wenzel here. Finally. We've been talking for how long now to get you here?
Oh, a few months.
It's been months.
You're cutting into my vacation schedule.
I was, and I'm glad that you took some time away from your vacation for all of us here.
I'm glad to.
I think we know in this city, Shane Homes.
Yes.
This brand has been around for a long time, and we're well known for that. Mm-hmm. What people, I don't think, understand is your journey, how you got here. The hurdles and some of the accolades that you have over your years. And I've been following you ever since I was reporting news out there for the Calgarians and so forth. So I've been following your story for a while. So I've been really excited to have you on here. So let's start off with, tell us about how you started up this business.
Well, I wish I could say I started up this business. It's 40 years old. We celebrated our 40th year anniversary last year. And the business was actually started by my father and his business partner 40 years ago. He used to work for a Jimmy Pattison company called Untitled Shelter.
Yeah.
And they built mobile homes here in Calgary. You might recognize the plant now. It's called the Crossroads Furniture Market.
That's right.
That was the Untitled Shelter plant. And it became apparent to them that this market was starting to die off, and they actually shut down the company. So my father and his business partner, Barry, they took their severance packages and they started Shane Homes. And I guess the long-running joke that I've always had is that, Cal's still sleeping with his first customer, my mother. She took pity on the boys 6 months into it that they hadn't sold a house, so she asked him to build a revenue property for her. So they built a duplex home for her for rent.
Nice.
So that's kind of where the journey started. Our first home was a duplex, and our first customer was my mother. But the company began to grow from there. Our first year, we built 6 houses, and from there, it just continued to grow. We found openings in the marketplace, and I actually came in 10 years into the business being open. And before anybody asks, yes, the company was named after me. My father was the majority shareholder of the company, and he wanted to use my name as a legacy,
Yep.
and in hopes that I would actually take over the company one day.
So the business has changed over the years. You've added a bunch of other divisions within the business and so forth. We've known it initially as Shane Homes. It's now the Shane Home Group of Companies. Kind of walk us through what that business is really all about, all those different groups that you have.
Well, over 30 years, Calgary has grown up as a city, to be honest. We started off building just straight single-family homes, and that was really the market in Calgary. It was a young city. It was affordable. So you really weren't looking at different products to build, and as time went on, we started to grow up as a city.
Yeah.
So multifamily became a real reality to have to get involved with. So we opened up our own division. We have Shane Multifamily. And through a lot of strategic planning about 14, 15 years ago, we have Shane Communities because, we are a land developer as well. So we've grown from this, this little company building, 6 homes a year to a company that, in its peak built 650.
So you come in 10 years into the business.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you start? Because you didn't come in as the president of the company.
Oh, no.
Right? So how did you get into the business? What did you learn, and those types of things?
I have a very unique story that way because I have 2 entrepreneurial parents, and I was the last child at home. And you can imagine what the conversations were like around the kitchen table with 2 parents like that. All you heard was business and marketing and business every evening at the dinner table. So I came right out of school. I actually went to work for my mother, not Shane Homes. And I learned about market research, so I got to learn from the ground up. I literally was highlighting every 1500th name and number in the phone book, transferring them across to contact sheets for the call room in the evening so they could make phone calls. And she's been heavily involved in market research for 35 years now.
Wow.
So I actually started there the first 9 months of my career, and then I came over to work under my father at Shane Homes. And things were a little simpler back then. Advertisements were these little classified ads in the newspaper, and you'd have to come up with the copy for it. So I had to learn how to do copy and, what words might, catch people's attention more than others. And that's how I started my career. Placing those ads, producing the brochures, the displays in the sales centers.
So more of a marketing and research angle where you started to move up. And
oh, yeah.
How did they determine that you should be the president of the company?
Well, that took time. I didn't go from a marketing assistant right to president of the company. I was the marketing assistant. Then, after about a certain amount of time, I became the marketing manager.
Yeah.
And then I became the director of marketing, the vice president of sales and marketing. It kind of got to the point where my father said, well, it's literally time to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
You're either going to become the president of the company or you're going to stay over here. What do you want to do?
And you took the president.
I took the presidency. And I had a lot to prove. Try working for your father, who is a very strong A-type personality who expects the best out of you every day.
That's interesting because there's a lot of people who are second-generation business owners, and they normally get pegged based on the success of their parent.
Mm-hmm.
And in your case, what you've done since you've been in the captain's chair has been phenomenal in and around this city. And so, what would you say since you've been in that chair has been your biggest success?
It's really just helping guide the future of the company. I mean, we talk about these core values that we always have, where we put place the customer at the top of the organizational chart. Actually believing it and implementing it is another thing.
Yeah.
Finding a group of people, your staff, your managers, your executive team, who can actually follow through on that is one of the biggest successes I think we've had.
So how would you figure that out? Because finding people, finding a group of people who follow your lead can be very challenging, especially in a market like Calgary where it's going up and down, boom and bust and so forth. How were you able to bring the right people on board, and how did you keep them, and how did you manage those people to build the success that you have?
It takes a very long time, because I've been around for 30 years and I've seen a lot of different changes. But, it went from really just building houses for people to creating an experience for people along the way. Finding people who you can rely on to go into those roles of managers and executives who actually believe in that is a really tough task. And, I've made some mistakes along the way. I've hired the wrong people who didn't buy into that. They just wanted to build houses and really didn't care about the customer experience at all. So, you have to make changes, and you have to add in new people with different talents and different abilities.
How easy has it been for you to fire people?
You know what? It's never easy to fire anyone. But truthfully, it's become a lot easier over the years.
Why is that?
Because you want them to buy into that vision, and deep down that you're doing the right thing for them and for yourself.
When you look since you've been in the captain's chair, what would you say one of your biggest failures?
Oh, there's always failures, and just a lot of little failures. You go into the wrong area, you produce the wrong product at the wrong price point, and you suffer for a while.
Yeah.
And you learn from that, and you apply that in real time.
So there's many business owners watching this program, listening to us and saying, okay, he's been in it for a while, so he's kind of figured things out, like where to put your product, how to price it, and so forth. And you've learned from that with your experience.
Sure.
Talking to these business owners today, when they're placing a product and they're trying to figure out pricing, what should they do?
Do a tremendous amount of market research. Honestly, the Calgary landscape is really changing. I mean, I can honestly say from 30 years of this, I've seen our customer base change dramatically. And it seems to never be the same it changes up every 5 years. So you have to stay on top of things. You have to do a lot of market research to determine where you need to be in the marketplace.
So the demographic of your client has changed? Your customer has changed?
Oh, tremendously.
And it changes every 5 years?
Yes.
How do you keep up with that? Because that's challenging. So, I run with a lot of businesses that have the same demographic, that same group of people, and they'll only deal with that group of people. But you're adjusting to the demand of what's happening. So
sure you do.
Walk me through, how do you adjust for that?
Well, you look at 30 years. Calgary has become, a real ethnic melting pot. I can honestly say, that 30 years ago, our base customer was primarily Caucasian, 70%.
Yeah.
Now they'd be about 30%.
Wow.
You know, because we have this really diverse population in Calgary.
And the needs have changed?
Their needs have changed for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you can think of that what was to what is now that's changed with your customer besides the demographics?
You know what, I think the biggest thing that I've seen from when I came into the business is that people bought houses, I thought, or at least my perception is that they bought it for an investment. You know, so they needed that traditional living room, dining room, family room. Nowadays, they don't care. They want a house to live in, and it has to meet the needs. So they don't need that traditional living room, dining room, family room combination now. We've seen people literally stick in podcast rooms in their houses because that meets their needs. They don't need that dining room because they want a dining nook where they can, you know, not buy that extra furniture, but, you know, they've got room enough to have 10 friends around the table when they need it. Or if we go over even to Northeast Calgary, we have multi-generational families there.
Yeah.
You've got 3, possibly 4 generations living under one roof.
That's right.
They need 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, and they can't be in the basement.
Yeah.
There are rules to how this all works.
Wow.
But you have to change with the marketplace, and that's our marketplace now.
So you mentioned market research.
Yes.
And you've talked about it because you started in that area.
Yes.
So walk me through how market research is important today more than ever before.
Well, again, your customer base can change, but, you know, I think actually, let's go back. One good story. We're going back 15 years now.
Okay.
I had the benefit of hearing a lady by the name of Joanne Thomas-Yakato speak at a conference up in Edmonton. And what she had done is she had written a book, The 80% Minority, Reaching the Real World of Women Consumers. And in our business, well, who's the main driver in purchasing a home, designing a home? Women.
Yeah.
So I found it intriguing, and I contacted Joanne after the presentation, said, I'd love to have you out. Love to have you speak to our sales and marketing team, which she did. She came out, she spoke to them, and we kind of formulated a plan from there. We initiated our own listening groups, as we'll call them, not focus groups, listening groups. We invited in women customers of ours and asked them, what would you change about the house? What would you have done differently? If your budget was $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, what would you have changed on that house? What's missing? You find out that, you know, kids are a priority. So one thing was, they're out, they're playing in the backyard. We need big windows. We want to see them because if we're home, we want to see them playing in the backyard, whether we're watching TV, we're in the kitchen, or if we're doing other things.
Yeah.
Storage space. That was a key priority.
Yeah.
There's never enough in the house.
Yeah.
Walk-in closets, way too small, not enough room. We actually refined all this down to kids' bedroom sizes, garage sizes, lighting in the house.
Wow.
So we did a deep dive and looked, you know, through what we call our, at that time, the gender lens, and learned more about what is important in the design of a house.
Did you know that 80% minority piece before you went to this presentation in Edmonton?
No.
And
No,
so
we knew that women were the primary drivers behind the purchase of a home. Was it 80%? I didn't know that until then.
till then.
And that's applicable across many product types out there.
And I find that business owners just say they know their customer and they leave it at that.
No.
Not really truly understanding who their customer is. You know, we put a little demographic profile and what they
Sure.
think and what they believe, and it's from our own lens. It's not until we actually go to a conference or get a presenter or do some actual research. Hey, surprise.
Bring them in, listen to what they have to say. Ask them, you know, are we doing things right? Is the service correct? You know, we found out we weren't providing the correct services. So
It's amazing how many business owners don't do that. They don't even listen to that. And I like the way you changed it from a focus group to a listening group. Because a focus group, you're going to basically give them certain driven questions so you can get an answer out of it.
Yes.
But you're here saying, what should we change?
Yeah.
What a
well,
beautiful question to ask.
I'm not giving them leading questions. I want to know, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
What can we do better, rather?
What's the next group you'd bring into your listening group to learn from?
Well, again, you know, because we're so ethnically diverse, you want to find out a little bit more about that. You know, what can we do differently? We already know what we know from, say, 5 years ago. What's changed? You know, we've got a younger buyer base. They're starting at 23 years old. What do they need in their condominium?
Yeah.
You know, what is really important to them? Maybe it is a podcast room. Who knows?
Maybe it is.
Maybe it's a gaming room.
Yeah.
Maybe they just don't care. They want 450 square feet and they just want to rent it. They don't want to buy it. They don't want the commitment. You know,
Crazy.
there's lots of questions to ask. So yeah, that's the next group.
Keep
That's who
asking
we
and
wanna-
keep adjusting.
Always.
What do you see as the opportunities, considering where we are in this economic cycle, the challenges that we've had?
I'm honestly not sure at this point. You know, it's kind of an uncertain future in Alberta, but I think at the same time, you know, we're getting there. We're finding our ground. Everybody's accepting the fact that the new world, you know, comes with a little less oil and gas and a little more electricity sustainability, rather. Yeah. And you do have to accommodate that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
How much? I don't know yet. You know, what I've learned in our business is that, you know, when people say they want to go green, that's usually, I want to save money on my heating costs, my
Correct.
electricity. So how do you find that happy balance there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the years that you've been in the captain's chair, compensation for your staff has probably gone up and down because of the market forces. And I'm going back to maybe,
Sure.
let's call it 20 years ago, or maybe a
Mhm.
little bit less, where in this city they were paying an exorbitant amount of money for a laborer,
Mhm.
for people in business, whatever it may be. Like, it was expensive. Fast forward almost 20 years and the pricing is different.
Mhm.
Or is it?
Yeah, well, I think we all felt that when this province was really booming. You know, like we were paying crazy rates for, you know, just general labor out there.
Yeah.
Now that's a little easier to find. Now you have to try and accommodate people who want to work as a consultant, who want to work, you know, remotely, and, you know, finding the happy medium there.
Hmm.
But you know, as far as their compensation goes, I think it's stayed relatively the same. You know, I'd love to say that even our staff have had raises, and there's been the odd one that we've done, but other than that, we've been flat for 5 years.
How do you find the competition right now? Like, what separates you from them?
Well, I'll always go back to the experience that you have with our company. I mean, you referenced it earlier on about the Shane brand, and I'm very, very serious when I say I want people to have an experience, and the experience is I want them to have a good experience. I don't want them to have this troubling experience building a house that I've listened to for 30 years. I want them to be able to have fun doing this, because that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
fun. You're creating something from scratch. I'm customizing it to your needs.
Yeah.
Why should that be stressful?
I found during the boom time, everybody and their dog were now home developers, home builders. A lot of people got into the industry
Mm-hmm.
with no real experience. We still have a bunch of people in this city who are flippers. They watch that TV show. What's that? The Great Flip or whatever it's called. I have no idea, but they're just
There's
trying to,
about 20 of them
yeah,
now.
and it's always the hot cities. It's never the ones that are slumping, right? So you're in somewhat of competition with those side gig individuals.
Oh, sure.
Or those do-it-yourselfers. How do you compete with your business versus not only the major companies that are in the industry, but these individuals who are doing the side gigs?
With a great deal of difficulty.
Is it difficult?
Well, it's difficult, but it's not. In a lot of your subdivisions, I mean, our commitments are so large that, you know, you're committing to 40, 50 lots at a time, you know, and that's not easy for the one-off person to do. They have the opportunity, if there's leftover inventory, to pick that up.
Okay.
So they don't cause us a lot of grief that way. But when you've got smaller builders who really don't understand their costs coming in and selling a product, that's when you run into real issues. You know, and in cases we've even tried to help educate them, because a better competitor is
Makes
one that
everybody better.
well, it makes everybody better, especially when they're not going broke. That's just a black eye for our industry, and that's not something that you want.
How do you find the politics when it comes to development, especially in this city and around the city? There's the whole conversation not too long ago about urban sprawl, and there's been conversations that we should all be around the center of this city and try to get everybody all zoned in. So when you're having business out there, especially in your industry, sometimes you have to work hand in hand with the city. And how challenging is working with a group of individuals who do not have a financial vested interest in the outcome?
It can be challenging at times, and what you're referencing to is, an urban planner's dream. Yes, you'd love everybody to live in the core, but I think part of the attraction to Calgary, or even other centers, is the fact that these people want a single-family house.
Yeah.
They want to live that dream, and they're sometimes moving in from locations where They don't have that opportunity. They're moving in from Vancouver, where they're spending $1 million on an 800 square foot condominium.
Yeah.
Well, $1 million here will get you a single family house,
Okay.
and a heck of a lot more. You try and find the happy balance. And, I kind of wince when you say urban sprawl. I mean, that term is thrown around so freely. You want urban sprawl, go to California, go to Texas, go to Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's urban sprawl, when you're jumping a mile in between subdivisions and your homes are situated on 1 acre lots. We have a very, very dense subdivision plan within the entire city of Calgary, to the point where you can end up with anywhere from 8 homes per acre to 17 with multifamily.
Business owners out there are going to say, I'm not in your industry,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a product. I have to price it. I have to market it. I have to deal with staff and do the same things as a business owner does.
Yes.
So when we're speaking to them, give me 3 tips that can help them learn what they need to do from what you've learned.
Well, I'm always one for market research. Earn it, don't expect it. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Earn it, don't expect it.
Earn it, don't expect it. God, what would the second one be? What's a good one? I'd love to say, work your butt off, work 20 hours a day. That sometimes works, that sometimes doesn't. But really understand your marketplace. It's something you do have to put some time into. So I'm going back to the market research.
Yeah.
I guess the third most important one that I've had to learn over the years is, when you can't accept change anymore, it's time to step aside.
What do you mean by that?
Change is constant.
Mm-hmm.
If I stop changing with the marketplace, if I can't deal with that anymore, I just want it to be this way, I have to step aside. I have to let somebody different run things.
Why do you think business owners don't do that?
Well, it's their business. They don't want to step aside. They don't feel like they have to. But we change so rapidly in this world now that you either stay on top of it and accept the changes in the trends, or step aside, let somebody else run it.
Because some of your competitors have done that. They just stayed status quo for the past 10 years.
And you'll likely see a few of them disappear over the next couple.
And that's what it is. If you don't change with the times, welcome to extinction.
Yes, I think that's valid in any business.
Thank you, Shane. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
If you want more real talk, more tips, click subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time.